The alarm rang through the Seoul space station at exactly 3 in the morning. Lee Min-ho rolled out of his narrow bed and stumbled toward the communication center. His feet were cold against the metal floor. The corridors were empty except for the cleaning robots that hummed softly as they worked. Min-ho had been Earth's diplomatic coordinator for 5 years now. He had seen many emergencies before, but the red light flashing on his personal communicator meant something different, something that could change everything for humanity. The message was short and terrible. Ambassador Park Soo-young was in the medical bay. She had collapsed during dinner with the Andromedan trade delegation. The doctors said she had some kind of alien virus. Her fever was so high that she could barely speak. In 18 hours, she was supposed to represent all of humanity in the most important debate of their lives. Min-ho sat down heavily in his chair. The Seoul space station orbited high above Earth. Through the window, he could see the blue and white planet turning slowly in the darkness. Down there, 8 billion people lived their normal lives. They went to work and school. They worried about small things like traffic jams and what to eat for dinner. They had no idea that their entire future might be decided by one conversation. The Galactic Broadcasting Network had rules that were older than human civilization. When species wanted to join the big galactic community, they had to prove themselves. Not with weapons or technology, not with money or resources. They had to prove themselves with words. The debates were watched by trillions of beings across the galaxy. Each species sent their best speaker to argue for their people. If they won, they got full membership in the Galactic Council. They could trade with advanced civilizations. They could learn new sciences. They could explore the far reaches of space. If they lost, they became servants. Their planet would be used for whatever the galactic powers needed. Some worlds became farms. Others became factories. A few became tourist destinations where aliens came to look at the primitive locals. For 30 years, no species had won a debate against the champion from Zexanara Prime. The being called itself Trump, though that was not its real name. Trump could change its shape to look like anything it wanted. It could speak in any voice. It could make people feel afraid or angry or hopeless just by talking to them. Trump had defeated 17 different species. The Corellians were turned into a farming world after their champion broke down crying on live broadcast. The Thessian Empire became a mining colony when their speaker got so confused by Trump's questions that he forgot his own arguments. The proud Vicarian warriors were reduced to security guards for alien shopping centers after their representative started a fight on stage and was disqualified. Min-ho knew all these stories by heart. He had studied every debate looking for some weakness in Trump's method. He had found nothing useful. Trump was simply too good at what he did. Now Ambassador Park was dying in the medical bay, and Earth had less than 18 hours to find someone else. The rules were clear. If no human showed up to debate, Earth would automatically become a servant world. There would be no second chances. Min-ho pulled up the files on his computer. Earth had maybe 12 people who knew enough about galactic law and alien cultures to even try. But most of them were scientists or diplomats who had never spoken in public. A few were politicians, but they only knew how to talk to other humans. One name kept appearing in Min-ho's research. IBRAHIM Troré lived in the underground archives beneath the city of Busan. He had spent 15 years studying every alien debate, every cultural difference, every small detail of how the galactic powers thought and acted. His papers on xenological communication were brilliant. His analysis of interspecies psychology was deeper than anything Min-ho had ever read. But IBRAHIM Troré had never given a speech. He had never appeared on television. He refused all interviews and lived alone with his books and computers. Some people said he was afraid of crowds. Others thought he was just strange. Min-ho looked at the clock. 17 hours left. He made his decision. The transport ship to Busan took 2 hours. Min-ho spent the time reading everything he could find about IBRAHIM Troré. The man had been born in Mali to a Korean mother and African father. His family moved to Busan when he was young. He studied languages and cultures at the university. He wrote papers that only a few dozen experts ever read. After graduation, IBRAHIM disappeared into the archives. He requested copies of every alien broadcast, every diplomatic meeting, every piece of communication between Earth and the galactic powers. He built computer programs to analyze speech patterns and cultural references. He created charts showing how different alien species thought about concepts like honor, strength, and intelligence. The Busan underground archives were built inside an old subway tunnel. The walls were lined with servers and storage units. The air smelled like old books and electronic equipment. Minho walked through the narrow corridors, following the directions on his phone. He found Ibrahim in a small room filled with screens. The man was shorter than Minho had expected, with thick glasses and clothes that looked like they had not been washed in weeks. Ibrahim was watching a holographic projection of an old debate between Trump and a species called the Mentarians. "Mr. Troré," Minho said softly. Ibrahim jumped and turned around. His eyes were wide with surprise and fear. "Who are you?" Ibrahim asked. His voice was quiet and nervous. "How did you get in here?" "I'm Lee Minho from the Seoul space station." "I need your help." Ibrahim shook his head quickly. "I don't help people. I just study. Please leave." "Ambassador Park is sick," Minho said. "In 16 hours, someone has to debate Trump for Earth's future. You're the only person who might be able to do it." Ibrahim's face went pale. He sat down in his chair and stared at the floor. "I can't," he whispered. "I don't talk to people. I especially don't talk to people on television. Find someone else." "There is no one else," Minho said. "It's you or humanity becomes a servant species." Outside the archives, Earth continued turning in space, unaware that its fate now rested with a frightened scholar who just wanted to be left alone with his books. Ibrahim stared at the holographic debate floating above his desk. The Mentarian representative was trying to explain why his people deserved respect. Trump listened with a smile that looked friendly but felt cold. When the Mentarian finished speaking, Trump began his response. "You claim your people are intelligent," Trump said in a voice that sounded reasonable. "But intelligence without purpose is just noise. What have you created that matters? What problems have you solved that we could not solve better and faster?" The Mentarian stammered. He had prepared facts and figures about his people's achievements. But Trump's question made those achievements sound small and meaningless. Within 10 minutes, the proud Mentarian was apologizing for wasting everyone's time. Ibrahim paused the recording and looked at Minho. "This is what I mean. Trump doesn't just debate. He destroys people from the inside. He makes them doubt everything they believe about themselves." Minho sat down across from Ibrahim's desk. The small room felt cramped with both of them in it. "But you understand how he does it. That gives you an advantage." "Understanding and surviving are different things," Ibrahim said. He pulled up another file on his computer. "Look at this one." The Corellian debate, the hologram changed. Now it showed a tall, proud alien with blue skin and 4 arms. The Corellian spoke with confidence about his people's farming techniques and peaceful nature. Trump listened and nodded. "Peace is beautiful," Trump said when the Corellian finished. "But the galaxy is not peaceful. When the Zephyrian raiders attack your farms, will you feed them too? When the Helios Empire wants your land, will you give it to them with a smile?" The Corellian tried to explain that violence was not always the answer, but Trump kept pushing. He painted pictures of Corellian children being hurt while their parents did nothing. He made peaceful nature sound like weakness and cowardice. By the end, the Corellian was crying and begging for mercy. "You see," Ibrahim said, turning off the hologram. "Trump finds the thing you're most proud of and turns it into your greatest shame. He doesn't attack your weaknesses. He attacks your strengths." The door to Ibrahim's room slid open. A young woman with short black hair walked in. She wore the blue uniform of the Galactic Studies Department. "Dad, you have to help," she said. "I came as soon as I heard." Ibrahim looked confused. "This is Kim Yuna, my daughter," he explained to Minho. "She works at the translation center." Yuna sat on the edge of her father's desk. "Dad, I've been monitoring the galactic communication networks. Everyone is talking about the debate tomorrow. The aliens think it's going to be easy. They're making bets on how quickly Trump will win." "That doesn't make me feel better," Ibrahim said. "But don't you see?" Yuna continued. "They're not expecting a real challenge. They think humans are just another primitive species. That could be our advantage." Minho leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Yuna pulled out her tablet and showed them a series of alien messages. "Look at what they're saying. The Andromedans think humans are too emotional. The Centaurians believe we're too violent. The Rigel Collective says we're too chaotic. They all have these simple ideas about what humans are like." Ibrahim studied the messages. His expression slowly changed from fear to curiosity. "They're not actually studying us. They're just repeating what they've heard." "Exactly," Yuna said. "Trump probably prepared for a typical human response." Someone who tries to prove we're just as advanced as everyone else. Someone who argues using alien logic and alien values. A new voice came from the doorway, which is exactly what every other species has done. They turned to see a tall man in military uniform. His name tag read Choi Dae-ho, and he wore the insignia of Earth's Media Coordination Department. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Dae-ho said, "but we have 15 hours left and a lot of work to do." Min-ho stood up. "How did you find us?" "I track all communications related to the debate," Dae-ho said. "When your transport ship filed a flight plan to Busan, I figured out what was happening." He looked at Ibrahim. "You're our only hope now." Ibrahim shrank back in his chair. "I told Mr. Min-ho that I can't do this. I don't speak in public. I get nervous around people. I'm not a debater." "Good," Dae-ho said, surprising everyone. "Trump is expecting a debater. He's prepared for someone who will try to match him word for word, but maybe that's not what we need." Dae-ho activated a portable holographic projector. The room filled with images of the orbital debate platform, where the contest would take place. It looked like a vast arena with seats for thousands of alien spectators. In the center was a small stage with 2 podiums. 847 billion beings will be watching, Dae-ho said. The broadcast reaches every major world in the galaxy. But here's the thing Trump might not know. For the first time, humans will be watching too. Ibrahim looked confused. What difference does that make? Every other species that debated Trump had already joined some part of galactic society, Yuna explained. Their people knew about aliens and space travel, but most humans have never seen an alien or been off Earth. Tomorrow will be their first real look at the galaxy. Min-ho began to understand. So we're not just representing humanity to the aliens. We're representing the galaxy to humanity. That changes everything, Dae-ho said. Trump always tries to make the challenger feel small and primitive compared to galactic civilization. But what if being small and primitive is exactly what makes humans special? Ibrahim was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the files scattered across his desk. 15 years of research into alien cultures and psychology, thousands of hours spent analyzing debates and communication patterns. All of it had been just academic study before. Now it might actually matter. "I need to see more debates," he said finally. "Not just the ones Trump won. I want to see the ones where he struggled even if he still won in the end." Yuna smiled. "I can get those for you. The archives have everything. And I need to understand the format better," Ibrahim continued. "How long do we each get to speak? What kind of questions might come up? What are the rules?" Dae-ho pulled up another hologram. "Each side gets 3 statements. Opening, response, and closing. The moderator can ask questions. The audience can't participate, but their reactions are part of the broadcast." Ibrahim studied the information. His fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. The same curiosity that had driven him to spend 15 years studying alien cultures was beginning to focus on this new challenge. "If I do this," he said slowly, "I'm not going to try to be like them. I'm not going to pretend humans are something we're not." "What do you mean?" Min-ho asked. Ibrahim looked at each of them in turn. "I mean, maybe it's time for the galaxy to learn what humans are really like." The transport ship carrying Ibrahim to the debate platform was silent, except for the hum of the engines. Through the window he could see the massive orbital station growing larger as they approached. It looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space with lights marking the docking bays and communication arrays. Ibrahim's hands were shaking. He had spent the last 12 hours studying debates and practicing his speech. But now that the moment was here, all his preparation felt useless. His mouth was dry and his stomach hurt. Beside him sat Han Ji-woo, a Korean military strategist who had joined their team at the last minute. Ji-woo had experience in psychological warfare and understood how Trump manipulated his opponents. "Remember what we discussed," Ji-woo said quietly. "Trump will try to make you angry or afraid in the first few minutes. Don't react. Let him think his tactics are working." "What if they are working?" Ibrahim asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "Then you'll be feeling exactly what every human watching will be feeling," Ji-woo replied. "And that might be more powerful than you think." The docking process took 20 minutes. When they finally stepped off the transport, Ibrahim was amazed by the size of the debate platform. The corridors were wide enough for dozens of people to walk side by side. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the halls speaking in languages that sounded like music or static or wind through trees. A tall woman in a blue uniform approached them. Her name tag identified her as Ri Sun-hee, the station commander and debate moderator. "Mr. Troré," she said with a slight Korean accent. "I'm honored to meet you. Are you ready for this?" Ibrahim wanted to say no, but he just nodded. Sun-hee led them through the corridors toward the main arena. Along the way, she explained the setup. The audience will be about 60% alien dignitaries and 40% media representatives. Earth's broadcast will reach every major city on the planet. The galactic broadcast goes to over 800 worlds. They reached a viewing area that looked down into the main arena. Ibrahim's knees went weak when he saw it. The space was enormous, with curved walls rising up in all directions. Thousands of seats were filled with beings he had only seen in recordings. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others looked like walking crystals or clouds of glowing gas. In the center of the arena was a small circular stage with 2 podiums. Lights focused on the stage made it look like a tiny island in an ocean of watchers. "Trump will enter from the east side," Sun-hee explained. "You'll enter from the west. The debate begins in 30 minutes. Ibrahim was taken to a small waiting room near the arena entrance. The walls were covered with screens showing the broadcast feed. He could see alien commentators discussing the upcoming debate, even though he couldn't understand their languages. Their body language made it clear they expected an easy victory for Trump. On one screen, he saw coverage from Earth. News reporters stood outside the United Nations building in New York, explaining to crowds of humans what was happening. In Seoul, people gathered in public squares to watch on giant displays. In Busan, his old university had set up viewing areas for students and faculty. "Look at that," said a familiar voice behind him. Ibrahim turned to see Yuna entering the room with several other people. She was followed by Park Jin-won, an engineer from the Mars colonies, and Lee Hae-un, a scientist who had helped develop Earth's first faster-than-light communication systems. "People all over Earth are watching," Yuna said. "This is the biggest event in human history." That information did not make Ibrahim feel better. The weight of representing all humanity pressed down on him like a heavy blanket. He sat down in a chair and put his head in his hands. "I can't do this," he said. "I'm going to embarrass everyone. I'm going to condemn our entire species to slavery because I'm too scared to speak in public." Hae-un knelt down beside his chair. "Do you know why we chose you?" she asked. "Because no one else was available," Ibrahim replied without looking up. "No," Hae-un said. "We chose you because you see things differently. You've spent 15 years learning about alien cultures not to impress them, but to understand them. That's not something most humans can do." A loud chime sounded throughout the station. Sun-hee's voice came over the speakers. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, please take your seats. The debate will begin in 15 minutes. Through the waiting room's window, Ibrahim could see aliens settling into their seats. Many of them were talking and laughing like people at a sporting event who already knew which team would win. The screens in the room switched to show the stage. A figure began walking toward the east podium. Ibrahim's breath caught in his throat. Trump looked exactly like a human, but wrong in ways that were hard to describe. He was tall and moved with perfect confidence. His face was handsome but seemed to shift slightly when you weren't looking directly at it. His smile was wide and friendly, but his eyes were cold and calculating. When Trump reached his podium, he waved to the audience. The alien spectators cheered and applauded. He then looked directly into the main camera, and through the screen, seemed to stare right at Ibrahim. "Hello, Earth," Trump said in perfect English. His voice was warm and reasonable, like a teacher talking to a slow student. "I'm looking forward to our conversation today. I hope you're prepared to learn something about your place in the galaxy." The crowd laughed and cheered louder. Trump's smile grew wider. Another chime sounded. Soon he appeared on screen. "It's time," she said to Ibrahim through the intercom. Ibrahim stood up slowly. His legs felt weak and his hands were still shaking. Jiwoo put a hand on his shoulder. "Remember," Jiwoo said, "you don't have to be like them. You just have to be yourself." Ibrahim nodded and walked toward the door. As he stepped into the corridor leading to the arena, he could hear the sound of hundreds of thousands of alien voices talking at once. The noise was like standing next to a waterfall. He reached the entrance to the arena floor. Through the opening, he could see the stage and Trump waiting at his podium. The lights were so bright that the audience was just a wall of shadows beyond the stage. Ibrahim took a deep breath and stepped into the light. The alien voices grew quiet as he walked toward his podium. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. When he reached his position, he looked across the stage at Trump. The alien being was still smiling, but now there was something predatory in his expression, like a cat that had just spotted a mouse. "Welcome, IBRAHIM Troré," Trump said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Are you ready to speak for your species?" Ibrahim gripped the edges of his podium and tried to keep his voice steady. "Yes," he said. "I'm ready." Soon he stood at a smaller podium between Ibrahim and Trump. The arena had gone completely silent. Even the alien dignitaries who had been talking and laughing were now paying attention. "The topic for today's debate," Sun He announced, "is whether humanity should be granted full membership in the Galactic Council. The question before us is simple. Why should a primitive species be given the same rights and privileges as advanced civilizations?" Trump stepped forward slightly. He looked relaxed and confident, like someone about to have a pleasant conversation with an old friend. "Thank you, Commander Sun He," Trump said. His voice carried easily through the vast arena. "I want to begin by saying that I have great respect for humanity. You are a young species with much potential." He paused and smiled at Ibrahim. It was the kind of smile a teacher might give to a student who had tried hard but failed a test. "But potential is not achievement," Trump continued. "The Galactic Council represents civilizations that have mastered space travel for millions of years. We have solved problems that humans cannot even imagine. We have created technologies that seem like magic to primitive minds." Trump began walking slowly around his podium as he spoke. His movement was smooth and graceful like a dancer or a predator. "Let me give you some examples," he said. "The Andromedan Collective can reshape matter at the atomic level. They can turn rocks into food or water into breathable atmosphere. The Centaurian Empire has learned to communicate across vast distances instantly, without any technology at all. They speak mind to mind across thousands of light years." Ibrahim listened quietly, making small notes on the tablet built into his podium. In the audience, alien beings nodded and made sounds of agreement. "The Rigel Collective," Trump continued, "has achieved perfect social harmony. They have no crime, no poverty, no war. Every member of their society knows their purpose and fulfills it gladly. They have eliminated the chaos and violence that plague primitive worlds." Trump stopped walking and looked directly at Ibrahim. "Now let us consider humanity," he said. "You discovered fire only a few thousand years ago. You learned to write only recently. You still fight wars over resources and ideas. Your planet is divided into hundreds of separate governments that cannot agree on anything." Ibrahim felt his face getting hot. Everything Trump was saying was true, but the way he said it made humanity sound pathetic and hopeless. "You pollute your own air and water," Trump continued. "You destroy the forests and oceans that sustain your life. You create weapons powerful enough to destroy your entire world. You worship invisible gods and fight each other over whose god is correct." Some aliens in the audience began laughing. Not cruel laughter, but the kind of amused chuckling that adults make when children do something silly. "Most importantly," Trump said, raising his voice slightly, "you are controlled by emotions. You make decisions based on feelings rather than logic. You create art instead of solving problems. You waste time on entertainment instead of advancing your science. You cry at fictional stories and get angry about things that happen to people you never met." Trump walked closer to Ibrahim's podium. When he spoke again, his voice was softer but somehow more cutting. "I do not say these things to be cruel," Trump said. "I say them because they are true. Humanity is not ready for the responsibilities that come with galactic citizenship. You would be like children playing with tools meant for adults. You would hurt yourselves and others." The arena was completely quiet now. Ibrahim could feel thousands of alien eyes watching him, waiting to see how he would respond. Ibrahim stood up slowly. His hands were no longer shaking. His voice when he spoke was quiet but clear. "You're absolutely right," he said. A wave of surprised murmuring ran through the alien audience. This was not what anyone had expected to hear. "Humanity is primitive," Ibrahim continued. "We're so primitive that we had to invent mathematics just to count our failures. We're so primitive that we created art because reality wasn't interesting enough for us. We're so primitive that we developed philosophy because we weren't satisfied with just existing." Trump's confident smile faltered slightly. This was not going according to his usual plan. Ibrahim walked around his podium, copying Trump's earlier movement. But where Trump had moved like a predator, Ibrahim moved like someone taking a casual walk. "You're right that we pollute our air and water," Ibrahim said. But we're also the only species that figured out pollution was a problem and decided to fix it. You're right that we fight wars, but we're also the only species that writes peace treaties and actually tries to follow them. Ibrahim's voice grew stronger as he continued. You say we make decisions based on emotions instead of logic. That's true. When we see someone suffering, we help them even when it's not logical. When we see injustice, we fight it even when it would be smarter to ignore it. When we love someone, we protect them even when it costs us everything. The alien audience was listening more carefully now. Ibrahim had their attention in a way that surprised them. You mentioned that we cry at fictional stories, Ibrahim said. Do you know what that means? It means we have developed empathy for beings that don't even exist. We can feel pain for characters in books and movies. We can care about people we've never met and will never meet. Ibrahim stopped walking and looked directly at Trump. You said we worship invisible gods. That's because we're the only species that needs to believe in something greater than ourselves. We're the only species that asks why we exist instead of just accepting that we do. Trump tried to regain control of the conversation. These emotional responses make you weak, Trump said. They cloud your judgment and lead to poor decisions. Ibrahim nodded as if agreeing. Yes, emotions make us weak, he said. They make us so weak that we share food with strangers. They make us so weak that we risk our lives to save people we don't know. They make us so weak that we create music and stories and paintings just to make other people happy. Ibrahim walked closer to the center of the stage. You want to know why humanity should join the Galactic Council, he said. It's not because we're advanced. It's not because we're logical or efficient or perfect. It's because we're the species that learned to find strength in our weaknesses. The arena was completely silent again, but this time the silence felt different. Instead of waiting for Ibrahim to fail, the audience seemed to be genuinely listening. We don't want to join your council to prove we're as good as you, Ibrahim continued. We want to join because we have something different to offer, something that pure logic and perfect efficiency cannot provide. Ibrahim looked up at the thousands of alien faces watching him from the arena seats. We want to teach the galaxy how to hope. Trump stared at Ibrahim for a long moment. His perfect, confident smile was gone. For the first time in 30 years of debate, someone had caught him off guard. Hope is not a strategy, Trump said, trying to recover his composure. Hope does not solve problems or advance civilizations. Hope is what primitive species cling to when they cannot face reality. Ibrahim nodded again as if Trump was helping him make his point. Exactly, Ibrahim said. Hope is what we do when reality is not good enough. When the Andromedan collective reshapes matter at the atomic level, they're working with what exists. When humans hope, we're imagining what could exist. Ibrahim walked to the edge of the stage, closer to the alien audience. You said the Centaurian Empire can communicate mind to mind across thousands of light years. Ibrahim continued. That's impressive. But humans write letters to people who died 100 years ago and somehow feel connected to them. We talk to pets that can't understand our words. We pray to gods we can't prove exist. Some aliens in the audience leaned forward in their seats. This was unlike any debate they had ever seen. The Rigel Collective has achieved perfect social harmony, Ibrahim said. No crime, no poverty, no war. That sounds wonderful. But do they have music? Do they have stories? Do they have anyone who looks at their perfect world and wonders what else might be possible? Trump stepped forward aggressively. You're describing chaos, Trump said. Disorder and inefficiency. Why would advanced civilizations want to learn these things? Ibrahim smiled for the first time since the debate began. It was not a confident smile like Trump's had been. It was the gentle smile of someone sharing a secret. Because maybe perfect isn't actually perfect, Ibrahim said. Maybe efficiency isn't everything. Maybe the most important things in life are the ones that don't make logical sense. Ibrahim returned to his podium and picked up his tablet, but instead of reading from his notes, he set it aside. Let me tell you about a Korean concept called Han, he said. It's hard to translate, but it means something like the bittersweet acceptance of suffering that leads to growth. It's the idea that pain and joy are connected, that you can't really understand happiness unless you've also known sadness. Trump looked confused. This was completely outside his experience of how debates were supposed to work. Humans have Han, Ibrahim continued. We understand that loss makes love more precious, that failure makes success more meaningful, that saying goodbye makes hello more important. Ibrahim looked directly into the main camera that was broadcasting to Earth. "Do you know what humans do when someone dies?" he asked. "We tell stories about them. We remember their jokes and their kindness and their mistakes. We keep them alive in our hearts even though logic tells us they're gone." On Earth, in the crowded public squares and viewing areas, people began to cry, not from sadness but from recognition. Ibrahim was describing something they all understood but had never heard explained so clearly. "We're the species that plants trees will never see fully grown," Ibrahim continued. "We're the species that writes books for people who haven't been born yet. We're the species that falls in love knowing that everyone we love will eventually die." Ibrahim's voice grew stronger with each sentence. "You want to know what makes humans special? We're the only species that chose to be sad rather than ignorant. We could have stayed in our caves and been content. Instead, we looked at the stars and felt lonely. We looked at suffering and decided to fight it. We looked at death and decided to create things that would outlast us." Trump tried to interrupt, but Ibrahim continued without pausing. "When humans discovered that the universe is vast and mostly empty, we didn't despair. We wrote poetry about it. When we learned that we're made of the same elements as stars, we didn't feel insignificant. We felt connected to everything." Ibrahim walked around the stage again, but this time his movement was confident and purposeful. "You say we're too emotional to make good decisions," Ibrahim said. "But our emotions led us to create medicine to heal people we don't know. Our emotions led us to build schools to teach children things we'll never use ourselves. Our emotions led us to make music that has no purpose except to make people feel less alone." The alien audience was completely quiet now, but it was a different kind of quiet than before. They were listening with a focus and intensity that surprised even them. "The Galactic Council has achieved incredible things," Ibrahim said. "Perfect technology, perfect efficiency, perfect logic. But when was the last time any of your species created something just because it was beautiful? When did you last help someone for no reason except that they needed help? When did you last look at a sunset and feel grateful to be alive?" Trump's face showed something that might have been panic. "These are luxuries," Trump said quickly. "Beautiful sunsets don't matter when you're trying to survive. Poetry doesn't help when you're facing real problems." Ibrahim stopped walking and looked at Trump with something like pity. "That's where you're wrong," Ibrahim said softly. "Beauty and poetry and love aren't luxuries. They're the reason survival matters. They're what makes life worth living." Ibrahim turned to address the alien audience directly. "You've built a perfect galaxy," he said. "Efficient, logical, organized, safe. But you've also built a galaxy where nobody dreams anymore, where nobody wonders what impossible things might be possible, where nobody looks at problems and thinks maybe there's a completely different way to solve them." Ibrahim's voice rose to fill the entire arena. "Humanity wants to join the Galactic Council not to learn your perfection, but to remind you what you've forgotten. We want to bring chaos to your order, dreams to your logic, hope to your certainty." Ibrahim looked at Trump one last time. "We're not asking permission to be advanced," he said. "We're offering to teach you what advancement actually means." The arena erupted into chaos, but not the angry chaos Trump was used to creating. This was the chaos of thousands of beings suddenly seeing their universe from a completely different perspective. Aliens were turning to each other, talking excitedly in dozens of languages. Some were arguing, some were laughing, some were just staring at Ibrahim in amazement. For the first time in 30 years, Trump had nothing to say. The chaos in the arena continued for several minutes. Sonny had to activate the sound dampening system to restore order. When the noise finally died down, thousands of alien beings sat in stunned silence, staring at the human who had just turned their understanding of civilization upside down. Trump stood at his podium, looking like someone who had been hit by something he never saw coming. His perfect composure was gone. His confident smile had disappeared. For the first time in 3 decades, he looked uncertain. "That was very poetic," Trump said finally, but his voice lacked its usual power. "But poetry does not govern worlds. Logic governs worlds. Order governs worlds. You cannot run a galactic civilization on feelings and dreams." Ibrahim smiled again, the same gentle smile he had worn throughout his speech. "Who said anything about running civilization on feelings?" Ibrahim asked. "I'm talking about remembering why civilization is worth running at all." Ibrahim walked to the center of the stage, positioning himself between his podium and Trump's. "Let me tell you what I learned during 15 years of studying every species in this galaxy." he said. Every single civilization that you call advanced started the same way. They had dreamers and artists and people who asked impossible questions. Ibrahim looked up at the alien audience. The Andromedans who can reshape matter at the atomic level. Do you know how they discovered that ability? One of their scientists was trying to turn moonlight into music. It was completely impractical and made no logical sense. But while he was failing at his impossible dream, he accidentally learned how to manipulate atomic bonds. A ripple of surprised murmuring went through the Andromedan section of the audience. The Centaurians who can communicate mind to mind. Ibrahim continued. Their telepathic abilities developed because their poets wanted to share emotions directly instead of using words. They thought normal language was too limiting for expressing love. Ibrahim turned slowly, addressing different sections of the audience. The Rigel Collective's perfect social harmony came from a philosopher who wondered what would happen if everyone in society cared more about others than themselves. It was an impossible idealistic dream, until it wasn't. Trump tried to regain control. Those are historical accidents, Trump said. Modern galactic civilization is based on proven methods and logical principles. Exactly, Ibrahim replied. And that's the problem. Ibrahim walked closer to Trump's podium. When was the last time any advanced species made a real breakthrough? Ibrahim asked. When did any of you discover something genuinely new? You've become so efficient at being logical that you've stopped imagining what might be possible. Ibrahim turned back to the audience. Humans are still making those historical accidents, he said. We're still trying impossible things. We're still failing in interesting ways. We're still asking questions that don't have answers yet. Ibrahim's voice grew stronger with passion. Do you want to know what humans discovered last year? A 12-year-old girl in Seoul was trying to figure out how to make her pet fish happier. She built a device that translates fish behavior into colors. It was silly and impractical. But while testing it, she accidentally discovered a new form of bioluminescent communication. Ibrahim smiled at the memory. A group of teenagers in Lagos were trying to create music that could grow plants faster. They failed completely, but their experiments led to a breakthrough in sonic healing that's already helping people all over Earth. An old man in Buenos Aires spent 40 years trying to build a machine that could translate dog thoughts into human language. He never succeeded. But his research led to advances in neural interface technology that help paralyzed people control computers with their minds. The alien audience was listening with growing fascination. These stories were unlike anything they had heard in centuries. This is what humans bring to the galaxy, Ibrahim said. We bring the willingness to attempt impossible things. We bring the courage to fail in new ways. We bring the stubborn refusal to accept that perfection means we should stop trying. Ibrahim, walk to the edge of the stage again. You don't need humanity in your galactic council to make your civilization stronger, he said. You need us to help you remember what strength actually means. Trump made one final attempt to salvage the debate. These romantic ideas sound pleasant, Trump said, but they are not practical. The galaxy faces real challenges: resource management, territorial disputes, scientific advancement. These require logic and efficiency, not dreams and poetry. Ibrahim nodded thoughtfully. You're absolutely right, he said. The galaxy does face real challenges. So let me ask you something. How long have these challenges existed? How long have your perfectly logical and efficient methods been trying to solve them? Trump's silence was answer enough. The resource management problems you mentioned, Ibrahim continued. Humans would approach that differently. Instead of calculating the most efficient distribution of existing resources, we'd ask impossible questions like, what if we didn't need these resources at all? What if we could create new kinds of resources? What if the whole premise of scarcity is wrong? Ibrahim was speaking directly to the camera now, addressing the entire galaxy. Your territorial disputes, he said. Logical negotiation has been going on for thousands of years. Humans would ask different questions. What if territory isn't about space, but about belonging? What if the solution isn't dividing what exists, but creating new kinds of community? Ibrahim's voice filled the entire arena. Scientific advancement, he said. You've been advancing along logical, predictable paths for millennia. Humans advance by accident, by curiosity, by trying things that shouldn't work. We discover penicillin while trying to clean our laboratories. We invent the internet while trying to help universities share information. We learn to fly by watching birds and wondering what if. Ibrahim returned to his podium for his final statement. "We're not asking to join the Galactic Council as students," he said. "We're not asking permission to be considered civilized. We're offering to be your partners in remembering what civilization was supposed to be about." In the first place, Ibrahim looked directly at Trump. "We're offering to teach the galaxy how to dream." Again. The arena exploded into chaos again, but this time it was the chaos of excitement rather than confusion. Aliens were standing and talking and arguing and laughing. Some were crying. Many were staring at Ibrahim with expressions of wonder. The vote, when it came, wasn't even close. Species after species stood to announce their support for humanity's membership. Not just membership, but a special role as cultural interpreters and innovation catalysts. Trump stood at his podium in silence, watching his perfect record crumble. For the first time in 30 years, he had been not just defeated, but transformed. The being who had built a career on making others feel small now felt small himself. Not from shame, but from the sudden realization of how much bigger the universe could be. As the broadcast ended and the crowds began to disperse, Ibrahim quietly made his way back to his transport ship. Yang Seojin, the Korean Prime Minister, intercepted him in the corridor. "Mr. Troré," Seojin said, "I want to offer you any position you want in the new galactic government. Ambassador, Cultural Liaison, Minister of Innovation." Ibrahim shook his head with a gentle smile. "Thank you, but I have more studying to do," he said. "After all, there are still 40,000 other species in the galaxy, and each one has something to teach." As Ibrahim's transport ship pulled away from the debate platform, he looked back at the massive station through his window. Inside, alien diplomats were already making plans for cultural exchange programs and innovation partnerships. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy was asking what if instead of why not. On Earth, a young Korean girl named Jang Miran sat in her bedroom in Busan, looking up at the stars through her window. She had watched every minute of the debate and had just made a decision. Tomorrow, she would start working on her own impossible project, a machine that could translate the language of starlight. After all, someone had just taught the entire galaxy that impossible was just another word for not yet. The universe had just learned to hope again, and nothing would ever be the same.